It was a stormy evening when the Harrison family, James, his wife Claire, and their two children, Emma and Noah, found themselves lost on a remote road deep in the countryside. They had been driving for hours, and the GPS had lost signal long ago. The rain battered their car, and the only light came from the occasional flash of lightning. James squinted through the rain-soaked windshield, looking for any sign of civilization. "James," annoyed, "I swear this map is broken. We should have reached the highway hours ago." Claire, softly, "It's all right, James. We'll find somewhere to stop soon. Just keep going." Suddenly, through the mist and rain, a faded sign appeared in the distance. "Welcome to Hollowbrook, home of the finest meals." Below the sign, a dimly lit restaurant stood, an old wooden building with smoke curling from its chimney. The lights flickered in the windows, casting an eerie glow. Noah, excited, "Look, a restaurant! We can finally eat!" Emma, uneasy, "Is it open?" James nodded and drove towards the restaurant. Despite the ominous feeling creeping over him, he was relieved to find shelter from the storm. The Harrison family stepped inside, greeted by the warm glow of lanterns hanging from the ceiling. The smell of rich, savoury food filled the air, but there was an odd sweetness to it, almost sickly. The room was dimly lit, with long wooden tables scattered across the floor, but there were no other customers in sight. A tall, thin man with a stern face stood behind the counter, wiping his hands on a stained apron. His eyes were too dark, too hollow, and there was a strange glimmer in them as he noticed the family enter. "Cook," Radu, with a low, gravelly voice. "Welcome to Hollowbrook, travellers. Please, come in. You must be hungry. The storm is fierce tonight." James, trying to mask his discomfort, nodded politely. "James, thank you. We're starving. Could we get a table for 4? The cook nodded and led them to a corner table far from the rest of the room. There was an odd, cold silence in the air, broken only by the crackling of a fire in the corner. Claire, slightly nervous, "It's a bit quiet. Are there many people here tonight?" "Cook," Radu, with a strange smile. "Not many stay long in Hollowbrook, especially in weather like this, but you've come just in time. The meal is always best when the storm rages outside." After a few moments, Radu returned with a steaming plate of food. Thick, tender cuts of meat, vegetables swimming in a rich dark sauce, and mashed potatoes that seemed to gleam with an almost unnatural sheen. "Claire," taking a deep breath, "this smells incredible." The family dug in, their hunger overpowering any lingering doubts. The meat was tender, the flavour rich, and the sauce indescribable. But something about the taste was off, something that seemed to linger on their tongues long after they'd swallowed. Emma, frowning, "This meat, it tastes different, kind of metallic." Noah, cheerfully, "It's so good though, I don't care." James and Claire exchanged an uneasy glance but kept eating. They were exhausted, the warmth of the food making them forget the unease that had settled in their stomachs. "Cook," Radu, returning with more food. "Enjoying the meal? I've made it just for you. It's my specialty." The cook's smile was too wide, and the way he spoke seemed rehearsed, as if he'd said the same words 1,000 times. As the meal continued, James couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The more he ate, the more he felt heavy, as though the room itself was pressing down on him. He noticed something odd. There were pictures on the walls, old photographs of people in the restaurant, but their faces seemed off, blurred, distorted, or scratched out entirely. It was as if they were trying to hide something. "James," quietly to Claire, "do you see those pictures? Why does everyone look so strange?" Claire looked over, but before she could answer, the cook reappeared with another plate of food, this one even more grotesque than the last. The meat on this plate was nearly unrecognizable, charred black on the outside, but somehow still raw in the centre. "Cook," Radu, "just a little extra. You must be hungry after your long journey." The clock on the wall struck midnight, and the storm outside intensified, rattling the windows with an almost unnatural force. The air grew thick, and a distant low moan seemed to come from deep within the restaurant. Emma, whispering, "I don't feel so good." She put her hand to her stomach, but the pain didn't feel natural. It felt as though something was inside her, twisting, growing. Claire, looking worried. "Maybe we should leave, James. Something's wrong here. I don't trust this place." But before James could respond, he felt a sharp pain in his own stomach, followed by a nauseating feeling of heaviness. His body seemed to slow, his thoughts clouding. Suddenly the walls of the restaurant seemed to shift, stretching and bending as though the building itself was alive. The dim lanterns flickered and went out, leaving the family in total darkness. The only light now came from the faint glow of the fire in the corner. "Radu," voice suddenly cold and hollow, "you should have left when you had the chance. You're already too late." The cook's face twisted, his smile now grotesque. The room seemed to pulse, the air thick with the scent of decay. James tried to move, but his body felt heavy, sluggish, as if something was feeding off him. His eyes went wide with realization as the room around him seemed to come alive. On the walls, the photographs now revealed their true nature. The people in them weren't just guests, they were previous travellers, their faces contorted in agony, their eyes wide with terror. And they weren't just photographs, they were trapped souls, forever imprisoned in the walls of this cursed place. "Radu," grinning, revealing sharp, jagged teeth, "you should never stop in Hollowbrook. We feed on the lost. And now you are part of the feast." The ground beneath them cracked, revealing bodies, hundreds of them, half decayed, hanging from the walls and ceiling, their faces frozen in expressions of horror. The cook's true nature was revealed. He wasn't just a man. He was a creature that had lived for centuries, feeding on travellers who ventured too close to the cursed town. As the family screamed in terror, trying to escape, the door slammed shut. The cook's laugh echoed through the restaurant as the family's bodies began to wither, their flesh melting, their faces contorting in fear. The next morning, the storm had passed, and Hollowbrook was silent once again. The restaurant stood empty, save for a new picture on the wall, one of a family of 4, their faces twisted in eternal torment. And so the feast continues. The souls of those who stop in Hollowbrook are forever consumed, their names forgotten, their bodies added to the collection. So, if you ever find yourself lost in the countryside, beware the road that leads to Hollowbrook, for the meal is always served and it's always your turn to be the main course. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Terror Tales, like and share our channel.